Afternoon, Cherries fans, and welcome to the latest opposition preview here on Up the Cherries in all departments. On Saturday, we beat Nottingham Forest at the City Ground with goals from David Brooks and Philip Billing. Brooks did see red though, but we were able to hold on for half an hour to claim our first 3 points of the season. On Wednesday, we travelled to St Andrews to face a Birmingham side who have had a decent start themselves, beating relegated Sheffield United away and drawing at home to Stoke. To preview this game, it's a pleasure to welcome onto the channel Kieran Bales from BCFC Media. Afternoon, Kieran. How are you doing?
Not too bad, Craig. How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really, really good. So, firstly, do tell us a little bit about BCFC Media and what you do.
So just me and a couple of the lads who, obviously avid Blues fans for whatever reason, just decided to, everyone likes to talk about their own club. Obviously we mostly speak about the bad times being Blues fans, but, we just thought it'd be nice for a couple of us just sit down, talk to the fans, try and share our views because, obviously with media nowadays, social media and what have you, it's a place for opinions, isn't it? And I think it just gets the fan base talking as well, is the main thing, and get everyone communicating with each other. So, yeah, we just decided to set that up. I think now that fans are back as well in the grounds this season, it'd be nice to be able to, do a few more bits and bobs, interviewing the fans outside the grounds, that sort of thing. But, yeah, that's the future.
Fantastic. Well, you've had a very good start to the season. You won 1-0 at Bramall Lane and then drew 0-0 against Stoke. Do give us your take on those two games.
The Sheffield United game obviously was a pleasant surprise, to be honest. I mean, any Blues fan probably would have snatched your hand off for a draw going into that game. Definitely didn't see us winning it. But, I think you went into the game against Sheffield United under Jokanovic, not really knowing what their tactics were going to be, their shape, how they'd go about the game. I mean, we all know a Jokanovic side likes to attack, and we all know that he, free-flowing attacking football that he played at Fulham. So you kind of expected an onslaught for almost 90 minutes. But obviously with them having a bit of a shaky pre-season affected by COVID and a few cancelled friendlies, I think we kind of caught them at a good time. And yeah, we kind of snatched a victory in a sense. Although I don't think we was outplayed at any point. I think we always looked quite comfortable with and without the ball. And then at the weekend, Stoke, I think going into the game, obviously it was quite well publicised that two of our two main stands were closed and there wasn't going to be many fans there. I think there was 10 to 12,000, including the Stoke fans. So bit of a dull atmosphere in a sense compared to what it would have been. So you're always a bit sceptical going into that game. It's almost like an away day in a sense. The Stoke fans travel in numbers. They make a lot of noise. You don't really know what to expect. We missed a few chances. I think on another day we could have won that game. And at that point we'd have been the only team in the league with 2 wins from 2, which would have been nice. But I'll take an unbeaten start and no goals conceded up to this point.
Well, of course, you're the only side in the league that haven't conceded a goal so far. How fearful are you that we could be the first team to score against you? And do you have confidence in potentially keeping that clean sheet run going?
I think it's always an interesting game, and there's always goals when we play against you. I think that's the one thing that both of us know. Usually we're on the wrong end of it, but there's always goals. I mean, obviously we'll probably touch on the one result soon enough. But I remember we played against you like at at Dean Court. I think it might have been the season you went up actually, and I think we was 1-0 and 2-1 up at one point. I think we lost 4-2 in the end, but we always seem to have entertaining games. So I mean, from my point of view, I'm hoping for less of the same tomorrow because I don't really want another high scoring game. Wednesday either. I'd be quite content with a with another 0-0 and keep the run going a bit longer, but I guess we never really know what to expect.
What's been Bowyer's secret? Because he has turned the club around. When we played you last season in the first game, the Birmingham fan that I had on at that time was very, very concerned about the form, concerned about where the club was going. But Bowyer's completely turned everything on its head, and really it appears to be that you should be looking upwards rather than downwards this season.
I think it's almost about having someone that knows what the club's about. For a start off, is a massive thing, and obviously we are a passionate fan base. We don't expect. There is clubs in the league now. You look at, we beat them on the first day. But you look at Sheffield United, your Fulhams, West Broms. They expect to win every game. Whereas we just want to see that commitment, that effort, and the passion to play for the shirt for 90 minutes and win, lose or draw, as long as the players give 110%, the fans are happy with that. And obviously Bowyer, from his time at the club and throughout his career, he was a passionate player as well. And I think the players have bought into that as him coming into the club, and the fans, he's adored by our fans. And I think all of it's just been a perfect mix. I think with Karanka, you knew that he had a good track record in the Championship overall from his time at Middlesbrough, but I don't think he ever quite understood the club, being from Spain and not quite knowing what we're like as a club. I think that kind of was one of his downfalls. Bowyer's come in straight away and the mood's changed, and when you've got a happy camp, they tend to perform above and beyond what they should do at some points, to be honest. But if it gets you the results, then I suppose as a fan base we shouldn't complain too much.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I watched Sheffield United game, and I did think you were much the better side. You put them under a bit of pressure as well. It was never going to be an easy game because it's a side just coming down from the Premier League as well. But you managed to get that result, which was a fantastic start. And I think Bowyer's really put his stamp on it now, hasn't he?
I think obviously, like we said, going into the Sheffield United game, I mean, you couldn't have picked a more difficult start away at Sheffield United, really. I mean, with the exception of Lundstrom, they've not lost a single player from their relegated side that I can recall anyway. The likes of Sander Berg played, Brewster was on the bench, came on, McBurney. These are all Premier League players, and you're never expected to go there and get a win. So I think immediately that result tells you kind of go, hold on a minute, what is actually possible for this squad this season now? Unfortunately we couldn't pick up the 3 points against Stoke. But you are now all of a sudden, like you said, we are looking upwards rather than downwards, which is nice. I know it's only 2 games in and a lot can change between now and the end of the season, but you think if Bowyer keeps them steady, keeps their feet on the ground, you never know what's possible, especially in this league.
David Brooks, of course, is suspended for the game on Wednesday after his 2 yellow cards. Scott Parker really was unhappy with the situation. How pleased are you that he's out?
Delighted.
One word says it all.
I mean, I remember watching him when he first broke onto the scene for Sheffield United, and you knew that he does have that something, especially in the Championship. He's a quality player, absolutely quality player, and I think you take David Brooks out of any Championship side and immediately they're nowhere near as good. I mean, on his day, he can run rings around anyone. So to not have to worry about him on Wednesday night will be nice. But there's plenty of players in your squad that can cause us a few problems. So I think ultimately it's still got to be, the focus has got to be just making sure we do our jobs rather than worrying about any player. But obviously, as a fan, it's just nice to know that one of your star players is unavailable. Gives us that little bit more confidence.
Yeah, I bet. The problem is that we are running out of options who to put on that right side. Of course, Danjuma's out. Do we rush him through? Do we rush Stanislas through? Are they fit? So there's a lot of headaches for Scott Parker to contend with, and I think that's why he was so disappointed after that game against Forest that he got those 2 yellow cards. But do tell us a little bit about this Birmingham side and that we should expect to face on Wednesday night.
I think it's going to be a lot more of the same from what you saw against Sheffield United in terms of the shape and the way they approach the game, because you are a very good side. I think the plan for the long term is probably to go with more of an attack-minded 3-4-3 system. Attacking wing backs and wingers that like to attack attack the fullbacks and really get at the defence. But we know where we are in terms of in the leagues, and the quality of the squad's not quite up there with the likes of yourselves and Sheffield United. So I think it's about managing the game rather than just thinking we can go gung ho and whitewash it, because it's definitely not going to happen. By the way, I think so. I think it's going to be more of the same. A solid without the ball, 5 at the back, or maybe a 4 at the back. Keep it tight. Let you have it in front of us and worry about it. Worry about the ball going into the box as and when we need to. And I think the one thing I've noticed with watching Parker and obviously you guys previously, I know things have changed a bit since how, but you guys like to have more of a flowing attack rather than, you don't just launch the ball in the box for the sake of it. And I think that could kind of be our downfall, because we have got our centre backs are good in the air, not so great with their feet, unfortunately. So, I think, just what you've seen against Sheffield United, maybe with a bit of change in terms of personnel. I don't think Chong's 100% fit, so that's arguably our best player so far this season out. But I mean, I don't even know what to expect, to be honest.
Well, to be honest, actually, it's quite interesting what you've mentioned there, because of course Brooks likes to swing those balls into the box, and when they're good with their head, the defenders, that might be playing into Birmingham's hands. But with regards to Jayden Anthony on the left-hand side, he doesn't really do that. He likes to pass it along the ground and cut in for other players to have a go. What do you think, and what have you made of him? Have you seen much of him?
I haven't really. I mean, I watched you on the opening day against West Brom.
Yeah.
And I was obviously hoping, for being a Birmingham fan, that you actually got the 3 points that day. So I thought you were actually quite unlucky. I thought you was quite unlucky in the end. I was very impressed. I mean, I know you're missing a few of your main guys at the minute. I mean, I know there's question marks over Danjuma still, and maybe over. I mean, I've not seen much linking Lerma away over move, but I really like Lerma. I think he's arguably your best player, to be honest. I'd take Lerma in a heartbeat. But I thought, just as a team, I thought Scott Parker had got you ticking from the get-go against West Brom. He kind of, every player knew what was expected of them, because I think, looking at your squad, it's a very good side, but I think it's just lacking 1 or 2 bodies, maybe from an outside perspective. I don't really know what's needed. I just think there's a bit more like, you've got a young fullback, haven't you, and a couple of young defenders in the side, and but I think if any manager knows how to get a team going, it's going to be Scott Parker. He's been really impressive since he's not just since he took over you, but his time at Fulham as well.
Yeah, and a lot of those players that he bought during the Premier League season for Fulham were on loan as well. So that's always quite an interesting perspective, whether or not he's going to dive into the loan market. We'd love to see Cameron Carter-Vickers back, who was, instrumental last season. But there is question marks over Dan Juma, whether or not, I know Liverpool's been mentioned, and with Lerma, unfortunately, will be out again for this game. We're counting down the games, to be honest, until he's back after Bitegate. So, yeah.
I've not seen the incident. I'd seen that he was missing for this game, and it wasn't until I decided to look into it a little bit that I seen he'd been banned for 6 games, was it?
Yeah, he's got 3 more after this.
Dan Juma, I've seen rumours earlier on in the window about Villarreal having a bid turned down. Obviously, apparently they were a bit cheeky with the fee they actually offered.
Yeah, they were.
But ultimately, it doesn't matter whether you're a championship side or not. In today's market, a player has their value, and if you don't match it, they're not going. You see it all the time now. He had an absolutely fantastic season for you last year. Kind of from nowhere in a sense, because you didn't really see too much of him in your Premier League season, from what I can recall.
No, we didn't, to be honest. And a lot of that was through injuries. He couldn't break into the side. Whereas last season, he really burst on the scene. He was absolutely fantastic. I cannot doubt him. Some games he went missing a little bit. But yeah, overall, he's such an important player for us. And, it would be great to see him again in a Cherry shirt. But there's those doubts whether or not he's being kept, fit, or he is almost fit. And, he's just waiting for the move, because if we play him and gets injured again, then of course that could scupper a big money move to somebody like Liverpool. But do tell us a little bit more about this Birmingham side, and what signings you made, what changes, starting 11 you expect.
I think, like I said, long term the plan is probably a more attack-minded 3-4-3, obviously against better sides, bit of a back 5 off the ball. The signings, he signed a wing back, a proper out-and-out attacking wing back for the left-hand side. Last season we only had Pedersen, who I think he's decided, and I must agree, he's more of a left-sided centre-back in a back 3. He's not great positionally. He's quite a large left back. He's not quite as mobile as you'd want down that side. So everything seems to point towards a 3-4-3 formation. The only problem is the strikers we've got aren't good enough to play the lone striker role. So I think there's going to be another forward signed before the end of the window. But the faces that have come in for the most part this summer so far have been quite impressive. Chong was streets ahead, the best player on the pitch against Sheffield United. For playing out of position, he was left side of a midfield 3. He's usually a left or right winger. Obviously an attack-minded player, and yet by the end of the game, we'd completed 14 successful tackles against Sheffield United, and he made 7 of them. Yeah. And you just think it's obviously a player that can do a bit of everything. Ryan Wood's in the middle, who we've signed on a 3. I know that there was a lot of talk about how good he was when he first signed for Stoke. It never seemed to have happened for him there, but I think sometimes these players need a move and a fresh start to kind of rediscover themselves. He's brought in a couple of faces from League One that obviously he's known from his time at Charlton, and whether it be for him or against him. So Chuck Zanike up front, and Jordan Graham on the wing as well, who I think they're going to be more squad players than starting every week, but they're good options to have. And I think, like I say, other than that, I think we are a bit short defensively. I think there might be another centre-back or two. There's talks of Scott Dan coming back on a free contract, whether that materialises or not. But I think it does show that he's still looking for another centre-back as well. So I think we're still going to have a busy couple of weeks before the window closes. And then I think that's when he'll start to stamp a real sort of idea out on the pitch of what he wants from the side for the rest of the season then.
Of course, we have to mention it. Sorry, Kieran. You know what's coming up. That 8-0 win in our promotion season. We harp on about that game every time we play you guys. What
understandably so from your point of view. I'll be honest, at this point, I'll try and block it out. I think ultimately it was a blessing in disguise for us, because obviously it was a real rocket up the arse that the squad needed at the time. We were between managers. There was no real idea of where the club was going. There was never really. What was it? Was that like September, October time?
It was, I think it was October, early October.
Yeah, we didn't have an idea. We still didn't have a strongest 11, or we didn't really have an identity or a way of playing. Obviously, you caught us at a bad time, but you were, that season you were streets ahead of. Not that it makes an 8-0 defeat at home acceptable, but
yeah,
it did. Like I say, after that, Gary Rowett came in and immediately signed a couple of defenders, and I think it was needed, because it made the new manager realise exactly what we needed to do to stand any chance of staying up, really. But yeah, apart from that, I'll just try and blank it out.
Before we go on to the normal question of the prediction, I just wanted to actually mention about Jude Bellingham. And of course, he broke into England's runner-up team during the Euros this year. Did you expect that to happen at that time?
I mean, half-heartedly, I work with a couple of Villa fans, so obviously we like to have a bit of a joke about Jack Grealish, and obviously everyone draws comparisons to Jude Bellingham around here with them. When Jack Grealish was 17, he was on loan at Notts County, so there's that. But we always jokingly say, he's going to be in the England squad by the time he's 18 and stuff. And did we really expect it? No. But the second you watched him play for us, there was a couple of things that sprung to mind. One, there's no way we keep this kid beyond the end of this season. And two, he can be whatever he wants to be. He was absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's very rare that you see a player like that break through. I mean, usually they're snapped up by a Chelsea or a City by the time they're 13, 14 years old. So to see them have a breakout season in the Championship is something that doesn't come around too often now. It's a shame, because I think, he made a few substitute appearances.
Yeah.
You look at some of the games. I mean, I'm not saying you should have thrown him in to the final against Italy, but you look and you think Italy's midfield definitely were going to be the ones to run the show. And what you want is a midfielder who's going to be a busybody, putting himself about and getting their faces. And that is what he brings to the side. Like I say, I'm not saying he should have started, but he's your option to do that. And I think going forward, Gareth is going to utilise him a lot more. He seems to have established himself as an out-and-out starter for Dortmund now. Some of last season he was in and out the side. So I think regular Champions League football as well, I think it's not going to be long before Gareth can't turn a blind eye to him.
Well, I've been impressed with what I've seen of him. I've watched a few of the Dortmund games that he's been involved in, and he's looked very, very good, very, very good talent. And it's a credit to Birmingham's academy that they brought him through and nurtured that talent as well. I'm guessing, what age did he start there?
I mean, he'd been there for most of his life. I think, did he sign when he was about 6-7 years old, possibly? Broke it. I mean, he was in the squad at the age of, or he was involved in the match day squad away at West Brom when Gary Monk was manager. I'm sure he was only 15 then, so he couldn't actually play. But that was the first time he really, made a name in and around the fans. And people were, there's always the rumblings, this kid's the next best thing. And you always take it with a pinch of salt because you hear it almost about every single player that comes through every academy. They're going to be the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
But, and like I say, he made his debut age 16 against Portsmouth in the Carabao Cup. And I mean, unfortunately, it pains me to admit it because they're a League One side, but they played us off the park. We played a reserve side, but they played us off the park. But every time he had the ball, he was composed. He was playing way above his years. And like I say, you watch him and you just go, he's too good for us already. I mean, at the age of 16, he could have signed a professional contract elsewhere and got us no money, but he waited till he hit 17, signed a professional deal to make sure that we got a decent, proper fee for him rather than it going tribunal and all that sort of nonsense. So, he's got a smart head on for such a young age as well. And, a lot of Blues fans say you need to stop clinging on to the past. He was only here for a season, and look, ultimately you wish him well on his career. But it's always nice to keep an eye on, the youngsters that come through the squad, isn't it? And it's just nice to know that someone involved with the club's doing well.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I'm going to throw it out there now, Kieran. How do you reckon it's going to go?
I'd love an 8-0.
What, another 8-0? You want to? I'm guessing the other way, of course.
I'd love a bit of payback. I mean, it's. I don't think it's ever going to happen. We're too wasteful in front of goal. I think it'll take us about 10 games to get 8 goals against you. So never mind the one. But I think I'll take a draw, to be honest. Just keep the run going. Keep us, keep feet on the ground still. But I don't think I think there's going to be a couple of goals in it this time. They're all, like I say, there always seems to be when we play you, and Parker seems to have got you ticking over already. A couple of goals scored against West Brom and against Forest. Hopefully Billing doesn't score because you never seem to lose when he does.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've noticed. But yeah, I'll say 1-1. Say 1-1.
You know what? I'm actually worried about this game because, of course, we got Brooks out. What does he do? I just don't have a clue what he's going to do. Whether or not he's willing to take a risk and, bring back one of the injured players, see, are they going to be playing through the pain, or is he just going to bring in another youngster? There's a lot of question marks there. Because he hasn't got, even though, we look good as starting 11, we don't really have that many options on the bench at the moment, which is a major concern. When players are back, when those, I think it's 7 or 8 players are back, then, we've got a solid squad, and if we keep hold of Danjuma. But we've already got 4 or 5 youngsters. We had Ibsen Rossi, we had Samora, who you referenced to earlier on as left back, Jaden Anthony, Kilkenny, and of course Mark Travers is also a youngster. So we've got 5 youngsters. Can we throw in a 6th? I don't think so. So I'm quite concerned about this game, and I'd love to say I'm could be optimistic and go for a 2-1, but I'm actually going 1-1 as well.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because at this point in the season, you never quite know what to expect. Obviously, things are still changing on a daily basis in the transfer market, and who knows, by Wednesday there could be some new faces that give a boost to the dressing room and all that sort of stuff. So you never really know. It could put a rocket up some of the players' backsides to think they need to up their game, they're placed under threat. So you never know, do you, really? It'd be, like I say, I'd take a draw. I think a draw would probably suit us more than it'd suit you at this stage already because, you'd always think I mean, you look back at recent times, obviously 8-0 and what have you as well, and it always seems to be a happy place for you to travel. So you would usually think you want to come to St Andrews and take 3 points. Obviously, you're not at the point in the season yet where drop points matter, but come the end of the season, you never know, do you? If you miss out by 2 points and you've had chances on Wednesday night that go begging, then could be a game you rue. But yeah, I mean, I'll take a point. I'll be happy with that. It's another point on the board for us. Obviously, we're not looking as highly up the table as you, so a point would probably suit us more at this point.
Yeah, to be honest, I think I'd be happy with a point considering Brooks is out, and I really don't know what he's going to do on that right-hand side. But he might surprise us. You know, like you say, might get somebody in as a last-minute thing, or you know, one of the players might be ready to go, ready to come back, and you know, it might not be so much of a risk. But I think, you know, considering what Parker said, I think there's still a couple of weeks, and you know, ideally he would rather, you know, that hadn't happened on Saturday and Brooks got sent off, to avoid having to take that risk. But no, thank you so much for joining me on this opposition preview, Kieran. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and all the very best with BCFC Media. The link is below in the description of this video as well, so please do go and check out Kieran's channel. Thanks again, Kieran.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem at all, mate. And thank you everybody for joining me on this opposition preview show. Please do remember to hit the like, subscribe and the bell icon to be alerted to any new videos we do. We will be back with the raw reaction to the Birmingham game, and also with the opposition preview ready for the Blackpool game later on this week. But until the next one, up the cherries. I'll see you then.